This is LiR Media. To whom it concerns, welcome to the panel. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the panel on LiRmedia.tv. And we have a usual email, info@lirmedia.tv, and subscribe to our channel by pressing the red button on the right hand side. And thanks to all the subscribers so far. We're moving up slowly but surely. It's upwards, thank God. Welcome, Alison O'Reilly.
Hi guys.
Welcome, Laura Witherow.
Good evening.
And welcome, Mary Honan again.
He said that rather kind of disgusted.
I meant everybody collectively. Now, we're not going to do what the Late Late Show did last night, and they looked like some. I thought I was an acid or speed when my friend turned on the Late Late Show at 10:05.
It's the funniest thing I ever
and
saw.
the camera panned down to the audience, and they were all with black face nappies. And I said, "Oh my God!" We all burst out laughing. I said, "We're back to the 60s. We're on a trip here, lads." Martin, did you put something into our cups of tea?
No, but the singer that came on had a mask on her. She had a big. She was like, it was like I don't know what. It was like an imitation of the Masked Singer in England, but this was a big you really have to YouTube it. A big mask on her, and the front of her face could be seen in the mask. So you were there trying to guess who it was, and sure, it was, what's her name? She's a country singer, and it was like a big paper mache mask on her singing, and the audience, everyone in the audience had a mask on them. Few people had their masks down underneath their necks, and they could. And then every now and again, Ryan would say to them, "Take off your mask to talk." So they'd take off their mask dutifully and they'd speak.
I've never seen anything.
Put the mask back
Martin,
on
our friend in the state, we were just winding down before we went home. Martin said, "I'll put on." I said, "Oh God, please
it looked
don't."
Bizarre.
Please. He did anyway. And we had a good laugh because I can't believe that this is a flagship show on a television station on a Friday night. Maybe they're aiming now, with all due respect to people.
Well, lots of people enjoyed it.
Maybe they're aiming at that audience. I don't know, but an awful lot of those would be asleep anyway that time of the night.
It was a Valentine's Day theme.
And they're very cheesy, those late Valentine's.
They're dreadful. I tell you what, we won't waste time. Go back and have a look at 5 minutes of it on the RT player. If you don't believe me, because we weren't,
everybody was up anymore, dancing.
So we weren't on a trip.
Everyone
and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. You know, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Anyway, as we run to Valentine's Day.
Everyone was up dancing and their masks on them, and they lifting each other. Women were being lifted up into the air by whoever was beside them. But it was everyone had identical black masks on.
Seems like I'm going to need to go on a trip to watch this.
Yeah. It's a bit of a Hannibal Lecter type thing, isn't it?
Well, one of the first comments I saw on Twitter was, "Am I on acid?"
Martin went on to the Twitter feed. Oh, lads. Anyway, look, really, I was wondering what I was missing, if I was missing anything, because I hadn't watched it in 3 years or something. And anyway, look, leave them at us, and I can't say anymore. But Valentine's Day obviously is around the corner, and it's there had been a couple of St. Valentine's martyrs down through the years, as you know, back in centuries. Isn't there a relic of one above in Dublin or something like that?
Yes, in Whitefriars Church on Ainger Street.
What is it? A big toe?
I don't know what it is, but there's it's a St. Valentine's bits and bobs, and then I think every year, possibly today or tomorrow, some newly engaged couples go in and they roll them out and they a photo call.
That's right, yeah.
Oh, gee, I didn't know that. No. But Laura, I think it's a way. I mean, I remember it. I do. I'm not that old, but I remember Valentine's Day was totally different when I was growing up. But it's I don't know what to call it. It's worse than a circus.
It's gotten very commercialized, I think. Even like I'm 37, 38 this year, And I find every year it's getting more and more commercialized. You literally get to New Year's Day and there's Valentine's stuff out. And even Easter stuff, to be fair, but we're talking about Valentine's. So just that alone, I don't know, like we're not big Valentine's-y people in this house. I mean, if he wants to fold the washing for me Valentine's Day, it might be extra special, but that's about it, lads, you know.
But Mary, when you get all the cards now on Monday or Tuesday, what do you usually reply to them?
You know, no, but you know, when I think of Valentine's Day, I think, and I heard somebody talking about it the other day. They were disgusted. They said when it's what's her name on Loose Women. She was talking about she got this beautiful Valentine's card, and she said she was stalking one of the guys in school for days afterwards, thinking it was him because she thought he was fantastic, only to find out it was her mother had actually sent it to her.
Oh,
Absolutely, she said, I was furious, she said, because she said he was everywhere he looked, I was there, she said, looking at him. Now, my dad used to send me Valentine's cards when I was a child, and I knew my dad's signature, and he'd always sign it D. So I knew that it was my dad, and but he always.
That's lovely, Mary.
You know,
That is lovely.
I think it's lovely, and my good friend, she was 14 years older than me, but she was like an older sister, and her family and my mother's side of the family were they were lifelong friends, and he used to send her a Valentine card as well, and she always knew it was my dad used to send it to her, but they were very good friends, you know, and she was like another daughter. Do you know, that kind of way? And he always sent her and me a Valentine card.
I think women are more romantic than men. I mean, that's a fact as far as I'm concerned.
I don't
Not
think
because
that's
there's three
true.
women and myself on the show, but I think by and large they are, you know.
I think you just had a romance bypass.
And I think that I remember when my ex-wife won't be watching this live anyway. It won't be going out live, but she has a new husband now, so it's grand when I say it. But I'm not going to talk about her, by the way. I'm just talking about myself. I mean, I used to be a complete nervous wreck coming up to Valentine's Day, particularly by my daughter slagging me, you know, when she got older. And you'd be working hard. I was working on the road, and you'd be working every day because the kids are small. And I said, what did I get? But I felt like a complete clown going into a shop to get a bunch of flowers, you know, coming out the shop. Like, I felt like, what's that comedian, that fella, Jim Carrey, the comedian, the actor. I felt like him coming out of the flipping, wondering who's taking photographs of me and my big bunch of flowers coming out of the shop, you know. I just never felt right about
Hey,
it.
my friend Anne, her husband's Muslim, and Mohammed, every time he'd come home with a bunch of flowers to her. You know, the flowers that you'd get, now he's the most generous guy in the world. I mean, really generous to a fault. But he'd come home with these flowers, but he'd have got them at the end of the checkout from maybe Tesco's, and they'd give them to customers. Happy Valentine's Day. And he'd bring them back to her, and he'd normally take the thing off that says Happy Valentine's Day from Tesco's, and he'd give them to her, but one day he forgot. She was furious. She was absolutely disgusted with him because he had actually given her a free bunch of flowers.
Do people, Laura, you're a lot younger than I am. Do people still send cards? Is there a big card
Like,
sending?
I can only talk for myself. I get my partner a Valentine's card. He gets me one if he remembers. There might have been one year that he didn't. But anyway, like
That's
I
written down and that's
And you haven't
recorded.
forgotten.
picking up on what Pat
Laura
said,
has
I'm
not
feeling like a clown going in to
Oh.
get flowers. I was talking to a customer today, and she was like, "Oh, like I have to go into the shop now and in the morning for my brother," she said, "because I have to pick him up flowers for his wife for Valentine's Day." And I was like, can he not do it himself? Like, and she's like, "Oh no, he'd be mortified. He'd be mortified." I thought that was gone. I thought men were a lot more modern day, confident, go in, buy the flowers, do whatever themselves. But there must be an odd one still out there that obviously felt a bit like Pat, a bit like
I'd
a clown,
rather be
and wouldn't go in and do it.
No, I'd rather be buying slippers or socks or something practical, or a pair of gloves if
Oh,
it went
for
to time, or a
God's
scarf.
sake.
But flowers.
Yeah, you're right, Mary. He definitely had a romantic bypass.
Well, I don't think I had, you know, and
God help his family.
but they're fine. They're grand.
They're
The panel
grand,
is a
like-
the panel is a show on LiRmedia.tv. We leave it all there so okie dokie about Valentine's Day. Look, really, we wish everybody a happy Valentine's Day.
Look,
you know?
I think it's a fantastic idea to end. I think it's and it should be kept up. It's not commercialized. Yes, it's commercialized, but you know, if something gives people a connection for one day in the year, or maybe Christmas as well and birthdays, but you know, if you feel a connection with your husband or your wife or your partner or your girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, for one day a week, just to show them that you actually thought of them on that day and that you actually went out of your way. However, when I say however inexpensive the present is, one would hope that you'd have the good grace to buy something nice, even if it's
well,
not
Mary,
expensive.
I don't need a watch. I have a new watch recently. But we're moving on to, I suppose, a topic that's pretty topical at the moment, and that's the cat, the football player, and cruelty. I know it's been done to death now all the week, and
I'm horrified by this story.
I think
I'm
we've all
absolutely
seen
raging
the
over this
footage.
story.
We've all seen the footage, and no matter how many times, in my opinion, you see the footage, I can't put myself in the frame of mind that you might hit a cat, you know, like you might lash out at the cat, go away, you know, you might, do you know what I mean? But to do other things to an animal, to me, I simply that man, and I'm not going to make an excuse for animal cruelty. That man really needs help, whether he acknowledges or not.
There's something wrong with you when you harm animals.
What do you think, Alison, of it?
I didn't watch it, Pat. I am extremely sensitive when it comes to animal cruelty, so I can't watch these things. But I got the gist of what happened, and I just think he should have been kicked off the team. The fact that his team let him play that night or the next night when it was exposed, there's something really, really wrong with anybody who hurts an animal, anybody. And I've no tolerance for it whatsoever. He should have been kicked off his team. I would have went the whole hog with him and sacked him. A huge fine, no good. That's not going to make him okay. It's sick, it's twisted, and there's something wrong with you. How anybody could harm an animal. They're voiceless, they're powerless. And you know what? The joy they bring you, the happiness my dog
don't deserve animals.
No, we don't
deserve. We don't, as a human species, we don't deserve animals. I go home to two of mine, and it's like as if I've been away for a lifetime. If I'm only gone to the
toilet and back, Mary,
it's like their little hearts want to stop. And like you, I have not watched it, and I won't watch it because. But I think Zuma, I would go further. I would jail him. And if he goes back to France, he could be jailed because under French law, he can get 4 years. It's only recently brought in 4 years for animal cruelty, and he is a French citizen.
Good enough.
So if he returns, there's a big campaign to have him arrested and imprisoned. Good. But he, you know, to actually, I'm 100% in agreement with you, to allow him to play, said basically because he's a good player, because they've paid 60 million for him, then he can do what he likes. And the message that's been sent to young lads is the more successful you are, the better you get away with anything because you have something over them. He should have been kicked off the team, literally. I know there's a lot of people said they will never play with him. They'll never want to be on a pitch with him, and he should be imprisoned. This is the ideal situation to send a message. Animal cruelty will not be accepted.
Nail on the head.
100%.
And Laura, have you a pet, Laura, apart from your husband and child?
I have 2 dogs. I'm a big dog person. I unfortunately did see the video, and I was absolutely sickened to the pit of my stomach by it. And I have always rescued dogs. I have fostered dogs. I do fundraising for our local dog charities. I am such an animal person. And this week, I actually couldn't even eat my dinner because in the one day I saw that video, and then I saw a local video from, sorry, my voice is actually really bad, lads. A local councillor in Perlis, Jim Ryan. He's a really, really amazing local councillor. He highlighted and shared a video from the My Lovely Horse rescue.
Don't say it. Don't say it.
Yeah.
And the harrowing picture that painted from a village just up the road from me here, there was deceased horses, there was carcasses, there was a foal looking down into the river on its mother who had drowned in the river. It was just, I actually think
they do great work.
Two things. Number one, until our government addresses this and enforces some sort of punishment for these crimes, it is never going to change. And like Alison said about, they have to find that Sumo page, it's pocket change, Tim. It changes nothing.
It's only 2 weeks. It's only 2 weeks wages. It's only 2 weeks wages.
It's nothing. It was a perfect example to do something. It was he was a perfect example.
Oh, fair play.
Hammer home the message of animal cruelty and
he absolutely
fair play
was.
to the advertisers and his sponsors. They pulled out, and some of the sponsors of the soccer club have pulled out, but the soccer club didn't. And it's back to what you said there, Alison. It's 100% correct. Anyone who hurts animals will hurt children and humans because it's the first sign of a psychopathic mind. And you know, I mean, you all know my research was in the Holocaust. You know, the Nazis with Hitler Youth, that's what they did first. They got children to torture their own animals, and if they could do that to their pets, they desensitized them to pain and to suffering, and desensitized them to sentient creatures.
Let's go back a bit. I think that the fact, the act itself was horrific, and there's no need to paint it again. But what made it doubly unusual for me was his child was in the room as well. No, I'm not saying it would be any better if his child wasn't there. All I'm saying simply, really, if you don't have respect for your animal, at least have it for your child.
Yeah.
My God.
Something wrong.
But if you're
what kind of example are you setting?
If you're going to do that in public and put it up on a YouTube channel, God knows what he was doing in private. And what other things happen to those animals.
Well, the police, as we said, the police are, it's a police investigation now at this stage.
Yeah.
But if you look at the law in Britain and the law in Ireland, I mean, they're very weak when it comes to protecting animals. They're very weak.
The laws are there. It's the enforcement is the issue. The laws are actually there. They're not bad. And Britain is actually better than us.
Well, they are. They're better than we are.
Enforcing things is not good here.
I can't see him getting jail. I can see him. I don't know what the club is going to do, because his manager, David Moyes, who I have the highest regard for, mind you, as a football man, as a decent man. David Moyes is the manager of the football team, West Ham United. There's a board. He's employed by the board that run the club. And yet, when he was interviewed after the game that Zuma played in, and he's one of their better players actually at the back. There's no doubt about that. I'm not taking that away from him. I'm just saying he was asked for an explanation after the game, and he said, I deal with the football side of the club. The board deals with all
That's a cop-out.
I think to myself that
Rehearsed answer.
You deal with the character, each individual character in front of you. And you know, you're entitled to discipline as the manager. You should have left him off the team, for God's sake. I don't.
That to me is like the famous line from Father Ted that Jack was like rehearsing. That would be an ecumenical matter. Yeah. That was his generic answer. That was his generic answer.
Gary Lineker was horrified. There were plenty of soccer players and managers came out and said that it was appalling for him it sent the worst message, when in actual fact his punishment should be used as an example that if he can't get away with it, nobody else will.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Mary, the fans booed him all night. The fans actually
Yeah.
did react.
Every time he touched the ball, I saw that.
Yeah.
I
West
saw
Ham
some of
have
it. I only
lost
saw
a
the
lot of
highlights.
credibility.
Absolutely. It's appalling. It's just so wrong.
There was a woman
Wrong.
on it, and I think she was the chairperson of the West Ham supporters, and she was in her West Ham jersey with her cat, and she said, "Look," she said, "it's always been a family club, and if I'm right, the West Ham soccer club is near Wembley, where I was born, and my early life was spent. And, you know, and she said, we were always a very, very family orientated club. But she said that failed, she said, with that decision, because, you know, family is beyond, for me, my only family are my two dogs. I mean, I have first cousins and I love them dearly, but my family in my home are my dogs. And, you know. You can't.
Well, I have two behind me here. And three upstairs.
The panel is a program. The panel is a show on LiR Media. Tell all your friends about us, and really, we leave that topic there because we just mentioned it, obviously, because it was so shocking, and hopefully there'll be a positive outcome. And I mean that as regards the law and the right judgment. But as I said, there's a police investigation. We'll wait. We'll see what happens. There was a suite of measures, as our esteemed teacher during the week said. We have a suite of measures to make sure that you keep your house heated, food on the table, and whatever other nonsense that he was talking about. Now we know, the pension is €256 a week for people who may not know that it is. The fuel allowance is €33 a week on top of that, which is an enormous sum of money for the politicians. You know, we know it is because they're not touching it. The living alone allowance, and I only recently got a single bed for the spare room just in case people are worried, so there's no one with me. The living alone allowance is around, I think, 18 or 19 euro a week. That's it. And they think, the government thinks, including Varadkar and Martin and all the rest of them, think that that's a fair wage for our most vulnerable and senior citizens to live on. They think that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. So much so that the €200 they're going to give in towards your heating bills, whatever they call them, they're going to deduct me, because I'm getting a fuel allowance. I won't get the €200. I'll get some other made up sum. That's how mean and miserable and the contempt that they hold citizens like me who have worked since 1969 in this country, in this republic, today in 2022. It's an unbelievable, shocking indictment of the cruelty of the policies of this government and past governments. And really, there's nobody in the media calling them out. Claire Byrne during the week on RT had an interview, I think with Pascal O'Donoghue, the Minister for Finance, and left him get away with blue murder on our national station. I'm just so incensed about it. I don't mean to go on.
We need somebody like Vincent
really,
Brown.
it's shocking indictment of how they want to treat people. But it's no surprise when they left my age group and older die in the last 2 years in the pandemic in the early times. They left them die. They put them into homes so they would die. And there's nobody took responsibility for that either.
The nursing homes was a dreadful thing with COVID.
What do you think, Alison?
We missed that. You know, I have to look at my father, who's 80 in May, and my mom, who's 75 or 6 now. She's a picture of health and looks like a woman in her 60s, and a really robust, strong woman, you know, great carer. And I sat down with my parents about 5 or 6 years ago, and I did every application for everything. And because my mum and dad never claimed social welfare, my dad in particular, he was one of the few to do his leaving at that age and had worked from 17, 18 right up to 67. Workaholic, and never ever claimed the social welfare. And he was terrified with the benefits that he got, or the social welfare packages. To this day, my dad still says, "Are you sure that I'm entitled to this?" Because he's so terrified, watching over his shoulder like he's done something, or he cannot fully accept that he's entitled to these benefits because he was never used to them. He's a fear of them. Thinks he might have got them, maybe didn't get them the right way. And I said, "No, Dad, you're nearly 80 and you've been so sick and you're entitled to all these things." And I have to base it on my parents who are that age, who have somebody like me that will fight for everything for them.
Yeah.
And then what about the people who don't know how to do those complicated forms? And it's not even just forms, it's going to your TD and asking for help, getting the things that you're entitled to, or just shouting from the highest rooftop. A lot of people can't do that. They're mortified. They don't know how to do it. They don't know where to go. And they're absolutely stuck in pure, like it's nearly destitute for them. And I think that the higher it goes, it's horrendous. It is horrendous for people in particular who are aging and don't have that support network or that voice to be able to fight for things. Because, you know, I just feel we treat the elderly and the most vulnerable in this country so badly. And it's not right for people, you know, who may have not had the chance to work all their life. And okay, they've been on social welfare for all their life for a reason. It happens. And we have to accept that every country has a group of people who will always be on social welfare for one or other reason. And that's fine. That's what makes the world go round. But to make people, nearly pushing them out, you know, of their homes, their financial bracket for the week, penny pinching at that age, it's terrible. It breaks my heart. It really breaks my heart. It's not acceptable. It's not acceptable in any shape or form.
And Laura, I don't know, did you get to hear any of that during the week about these straws that they're holding out to people, these pretends to be doing something, pretending for people who are finding it hard going? We all know that all the prices of everything have gone through the roof.
Yeah.
A litre of milk in Dunn's, it went from 75 to 85. That's more than 5% for the thing.
And
a
that's
litre
it.
of
When
milk
you're
in
doing your weekly
Super
shopping
Value
at
went from 99 cents to 120. Anyway,
when you're doing your weekly shopping at the minute, I don't know about you, but I'm seeing increases of like 15 and 20 euros, not like €1 and €2. It's like
huge
it's in the 10s, 20s, 30s. And like the government are handing out, I'm not even going to call it a branch, it's a twig. It is a show. It is an absolute farce because they are looking at the bigger picture here going, right, lads, we've made a hash of a lot of shit in the last couple of years. Let's start making ourselves look like great lads again. Let's deflect from the attention that we've all had our increase. And let's just see what we can get away with here and give them all we'll put up the price of everything, but we'll give them a little bit back in this €200 for every household. And just focusing on that, like, okay, so that's great for like 1 month. And it's not great. Let's be clear, it's not great.
No.
What about the other 11 months of the year? What about the people who literally have to decide, okay, do I heat my house this week or do I eat? It is an absolute abomination of the way this government have treated the elderly and everyone in this country. If you're a worker, if you're elderly, if you're vulnerable, if you're on disability, any of those categories, you're absolute dirt on the shoe of this government and the way they have treated them.
And Mary, I'm sure you got a chance to glance over some of the.
Do you know, I have a huge problem with, and I've always said it, you know, there's a cohort of people, they talk about the minimum wage. And there's a cohort of people, i.e. people say who are on social welfare or people who are on disability allowance, who are getting €250 a week, out of which they're supposed to be paying electricity, gas, or whatever the expenses they have and their home. And and I know people who are on that pay-as-you-go meter, and that has doubled in price.
Yeah.
So what was €10 is now €20 in the week, and they're on €250 a week. And they're, you know, and the government is talking about minimum wage. And, you know, there should not be one single person in this country, I don't care who they are, who should be less than the minimum wage. And you know, I don't know how people live on 250 euros a week.
They don't.
And nobody can help if they're on disability
No.
allowance, or if they're on disability, there's another disability, but you know, if you're on disability allowance, then your wages should at the very, very least be the minimum wage.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, I mean, I think it's simply they're living so long in ivory towers that they have absolutely no idea of what it is.
They're completely out of touch.
I think when they're setting up these groups, Laura and Alison, and Pat, when they're setting up these groups to decide how to disperse money, perhaps there should be somebody on it, on that committee, who, albeit they're not elected members, but there should be some representative from every organization that's going to benefit from this, to say, look, stop. This is not going to work. Yeah. This is not going to help. You're giving 200 euros to somebody, and it's a one-off payment of 200 euros. Where is that going to help anybody? Yeah. I mean,
what do you throw it at? Like, which bill do you throw it at?
Yeah. What Chanel came up with 200
We shouldn't
euros.
be surprised, because they gave the senior citizens €5.
Oh, they killed themselves altogether with that.
That €5.
But they're not that much coming forward, giving themselves raises, Pat.
Well, I was going to give it back, but there's no mechanism for giving it back, because it's automatically put in if you understand into your pension. You can't give it back. But the pension, the pension, the contributory pension, or it doesn't matter what it is, the pension rate for senior citizens in Ireland should be 450 quid a week.
Oh,
it should be that.
Oh, absolutely.
Our costs for electricity, heating and groceries are, generally speaking, averaging between 70 and 84% higher than most countries in Europe.
Yeah.
And our government thinks that's grand. Do they think it's grand? Because
you know what happened to my
there's the outrage from all the parties. There's the outrage.
My parents there recently got a massive tax bill. You know, you're getting too much, and you owe €1,000 or something, and that would send my mother over the edge, because she's so careful with money. And I said, Ma'am, I said, we're going to get a friend of mine who's good with accounts, and I bet you there's a glitch somewhere, and it'll even itself out and all that kind of thing. And it turns out that the girl that was going to help us, her father passed away, so it was delayed. Anyway, my mother went into the social welfare herself and said, I want to know what this is all about. You know, that's a huge bill, what have you. And it turns out that they said to my mom, well, you are getting the full carer's allowance for the last few years. And my mom said, no, I'm not. I live with my husband. I only get half. No, you get full. Now, imagine you didn't know to ask or to check. And I was surprised my mother went into the social welfare, but she was so worried about the money that she said, I'm going to go in and I'll get to the bottom of it. Because we'd all see that as like an expert's job, you know, and some good finances. But anyway, social welfare, it turns out, was charging my mother. They said she was being overpaid because she was on the full carer's allowance when she was only supposed to be on half of it. And my mum is only on half of it. So it wiped the bill. Oh my God, I was so happy for her. Because I did say to her, wait till you see somewhere there's a mistake. And that's what it was. And I mean, imagine, €1,000.
I mean, they were lining up, the government, all ministers of all parties were lining up, including the Salad Party. They were lining up on television and radio for a photo op. We want to thank the frontline staff. They were thanking people for doing their jobs. Don't get me wrong, they're tough jobs. You know, thanking people for doing their jobs in this day and age is an insult to me anyway. They did their bloody job, and if they don't like their job, they can change it. That's my attitude towards any job, for God's sake. The carers, my brother was a carer for my own days, took care of my dad. The carers allowance, does anybody stop in the media in our national and find out how much is the carers allowance? It's about €3 an hour.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
€3 an hour. And they think that's okay.
And yet,
Yeah.
if you put your mother or father or loved one into a nursing home, it's over 1,000, if I'm not wrong.
1,400 quid was my
1,400
mother's place.
a month, isn't it?
If you can get a
A
place,
week.
Mary.
Just
A week,
1,400
a week, I
euros
mean,
a week.
a week, I mean.
Go away
And
on
yet,
that. It's-
and yet they were giving raises, say, as you say, to people who are working as carers in nursing homes.
Yeah.
But not to the likes of your brother who's working as a carer, and many, many, many more in Ireland who are getting pittance, getting 300, as you say, or three euros an hour. Why weren't they given
The lot of a carer is shocking. My dad gets up early because I was minding him for a few days when my brother was away. He gets up at around 7, 7:15 in the morning. That's every morning. Every morning. You have to be up before him. He's 91. He can't be on his own. Get breakfast, you prepare the dinner, you prepare the lunch, you prepare the supper. In between, you do cleaning, you put on the wash, you make sure he's dead all day long till he goes to bed about 9:30 or 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
You're so tired that you have to go as well because you know it's starting all over again in about 6 to 7 hours time. And this is every day
But
of
Pat,
the week.
there's another thing that's
Every
missed.
day.
There's another thing that's missed that none of us have mentioned until now, and that's the fact that they added insult to injury by giving this to everybody in the country, this 200 euros to everybody in the country for fuel, irrespective of, some of them have said now, the politicians themselves, oh, we're going to give it to St. Vincent de Paul, or we're going to give it to a charity. They gave it to everybody. If they had actually given it to people who were on low income, or people who had to take huge cuts during COVID, people who were deemed, and I hate this phrase, non-essential workers, because again, it's not 75 years ago that this phrase was used, whether somebody was an essential or a non-essential worker. If you're going out, digging up the roads or sweeping the roads, and that's bringing you money into your hand to feed your children, you are an essential worker. You're essential to your own well-being, and you're essential to your children. But they have deemed everybody to get this payment.
Well,
people who are on
the minister,
300,000 a week.
Yeah.
The
Minister Michael McGrath said, I'm going to give my 200 euro to an animal charity. That's fine. He shouldn't be getting, he doesn't get it. He shouldn't be getting it.
Well, that's
and
what
another minister said,
that's what I'm saying.
And what are they giving out about the prices? The minister, Sean Fleming, shop around. You don't have a car, you have 3 kids, you're in a village, small village, with one shop.
Yeah.
He said, shop around.
Yeah.
How do you shop around?
Yeah.
Walk.
Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous.
I think they're lucky that we're not armed, the citizens of Ireland. And I'm only just being flippant, really, you know?
Yeah. No, but you know, I was always a bit fearful about, I'm not politically affiliated to anybody, but I was always a little bit hesitant about Sinn Féin getting in. And now I'm like, let them in. They probably would be in next time round.
I am different in the sense that, you know, I would have almost voted maybe the previous time for Sinn Féin, and I was always, our family, my father's was always Fine Gael, because they were, Maria Byrne's dad was so good to my dad when he came from England, and my mother was rank Fianna Fáil all her life. And I mean, okay, she was Irish, my dad was English, she was Catholic, my dad was Protestant until he came here. They really were a mixed marriage.
Yeah.
Even their politics were mixed. But I would have voted Sinn Féin the last time, but not now. I've not seen Sinn Féin be a real, what would you call it, opposition party. Certainly when it came to COVID, they were all, it was almost like they were all singing from the same hymn sheet. And, you know, this idea that some people's work was more valuable and some people were more essential.
Well, I must say here, Mary,
and they did not speak out about that.
I must say here, I was a member of Sinn Féin, but I did not renew my membership of Sinn Féin. So I'm not a member of any political party right now. And the reason I didn't renew my membership of Sinn Féin is they've been abysmal.
But Pat has been encouraged to go for the election
Abysmal.
as an independent.
Really, Pat?
He's very
He can do
shy
it.
to actually say that, but there's been pressure being put on him to go.
We
as an
need the Daily
independent.
Mirror behind me, but I'm just.
Oh, well, it's actually the Sunday Mirror, Pat, but do it. Absolutely do it. Oh my
Well,
God, that would be
The thing
brilliant.
about it is they've been very disappointing to me. I know some of them personally, on a personal level. They know who they are, I know who they are, and I really have great time for some of them personally. Like in all parties, there are good people in all parties.
Very good people.
Let's be honest about it. But the Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael have ruled the country for 100 years. You need to change. The alternatives are not attractive to me, but you have to decide sometime we need a change. As you said, Alison, Sinn Féin won't be able to form a government after the next election without somebody coming in with them. There are 32 seats now. They're not going to get 50 extra seats. No way. They might get another 20, maybe. They might get 18. I don't know.
But Pat, they are. I mean, I can only speak for, sitting at my desk in work where there's a marking morning, noon, and night. Sinn Féin, Sinn Féin, Sinn Féin, and people before profit. They never stop holding meetings on the plinth. They're constantly, and every Saturday there's a rally here, there, and everywhere. And that has jumped out at me. I was only saying recently, Richard Boyd Barrett is at everything. Breed Smith, everything. Every time I go anywhere, they're visibly there, or they're calling.
They go to the opening of a paper bag.
But the visibility is what works. It's all optics, and I mean it is, and people always say Sinn Féin get things done on the ground. They're not as busy as bashing out the press releases as people before profit. I've noticed a huge surge.
They're very present, aren't they?
Yeah.
Whereas I have to agree with Mary and Pat. I found this whole, last couple of years of COVID, I described Sinn Féin as being mute.
Yeah, completely mute.
That's what I described them as, being mute.
But do you think, Laura, it might be, and again, I am not a party to anybody, nobody, but do you think it might be that COVID was extraordinary, right? And I know it was always going to be a hindsight situation where we look back and go, that was terrible. The nursing homes, I don't understand how we missed that. I don't understand how that was missed. However, who could have done it better? And I think they know that. If I was in that situation, I wouldn't fancy it.
You know that there was legislation passed in the door without no scrutiny, taking away the citizens' rights of this republic that was not necessary. Sinn Féin did not oppose that legislation.
That's it.
I'm just being narrow now. There was other general things that I agree with, that they have to do these things and all of that. There's no doubt about that. Look, it was a serious virus, and I know because I got it myself, but it was a serious virus. There's no doubt about that. But statistically speaking, it killed no one extra in the island in the last 2 years. With the same amount of deaths 3 years previous, 4 years previous.
And
so
Alison, you say about the pandemic being an extraordinary situation.
Well, what's the answer?
But the crisis in our hospitals was extraordinary for the last, I don't know,
the crisis in our hospitals,
forever.
The crises in our hospitals are extraordinary every year at winter time because of incompetence of the management. Don't hear in Limerick. The incompetence of the management in university hospitals going back decades, years since they changed it. It had nothing to do with the pandemic.
I fully agree with you, Pat. I fully agree with you with that, because I've had to cover that shit, and I stood there in 2004, was it when the smoking ban came in, or 2006?
Yeah,
I think I remember Micheál Martin was the health minister, and we were all invited to a smokeless breakfast in Zulu.
Smokeless breakfast.
And it was lavish, and there was all sorts there. And I remember Sky News Ireland was starting up, and I was desperately trying to get a job there. And I remember
them. Was it one of the show, I guess? Was it one of the show?
Yeah, Grania Show again. Yeah. I worked with all of them. And Ray Kennedy was there with Mike Wilson. And I was there for 98 FM, I think, but I was desperately trying to get into Sky. And I remember everybody's talking about the smoking ban and how will it work. And I mean, it was a great idea. It was really a good idea.
It was.
But
Oh, she's gone.
Kennedy said, and I could still see him doing it, is this a smoke screen for all your failures in the health service and all the failures of all the health ministers? I remember he said that. Micheál Martin nearly choked on his sausages.
But you didn't know.
Yeah, and I always remember that because, you know, back Mary Harney, Leo Varadkar, everybody, the health minister's job is
James O'Reilly.
and we cannot get it right.
But
The
you
reason,
know,
of course, the main reason, Alison, I don't know, maybe the Sunday Mirror might do something on it. The main reason, I've been in the civil service, the main reason the Department of Health is not right, or the health service in general, is it's run and dictated by the consultants.
Yeah, absolutely.
Until such time,
yeah, you're
as
100%
that, they might
right.
as well throw another billion at it. It makes no
Yeah,
difference.
The way
So
I look at
consultants work in the health service from 10 o'clock on a Monday morning till about 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock and they're off golfing on a Monday.
Yeah.
And if you go into hospital at lunchtime on Friday, you're lying in the bed looking at the ceiling, the strobe lighting, till Monday at about 2 o'clock.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
There you go. That's our health service.
But the way I look on it is, and I know, you know, I mean, the Catholic Church has been much maligned. But when you look back, certainly in my childhood and that, and you had nuns running the hospitals, and you had a structure, you went into the hospital and you saw the nurses with different colored stripes, and they were plain if they were a student nurse. They were green if they were a second year, and on their final year they were blue. So you knew they were a staff nurse. You knew which person was a carer, which person was a cleaner, which person was
absolutely
or anything. And every one of the nurses were responsible for the area that they worked on and keep it clean. Now you have people being brought in to clean the places, and with all the due respect to people, they're not getting paid a whole lot of money. So they're only half doing the job, whereas the nuns would come around afterwards and check to make sure everything was spick and span. Now, the hospitals are, and Pat is 100% right. In my view, the hospital is not a 9 to 5 Monday to Friday. A hospital should be 24/7, 7 days a week. If you go in at 9 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock at night, you need a specialist should be on duty for you to see at that time, and they should be split. And if you have specialists who want to do their private consultancy, well, then they cannot be part of the public health system.
100%.
They can go away and do their private work, but they're recruiting people. They're going in and they're getting patients and they're encouraging them to come to their private clinic. And that is so wrong.
Yeah. And I saw that, Mary, with my father. Every single issue he had with his heart, he flew through the system, open heart surgery, everything done. And I was saying, how did this happen? And I had forgotten that 20 or 30 years ago, I encouraged my mother to take out private healthcare for my dad.
Yeah.
And he flew through the system with everything. And I always
have private health care.
Yeah.
But that shouldn't give me, I shouldn't be, I've taken it out and I have it since I was 18 years of age, but I shouldn't be privileged above anybody else.
No, because on the same hand, my father's family are riddled with heart disease. My father has been given the best of care. And his poor brother just dropped dead in the public health system, just dropped dead of a heart attack.
That's very
and
sad.
I always said, if your brother was in the system that you were in, where you're
Laura, I don't want personal details of anybody, obviously, you know. But Laura, you had a baby recently, right?
Yeah, that's right. I had a baby during COVID.
Where did you
lockdown.
go? Where did you go?
Clonmel Regional Hospital.
Oh yeah, and was that good?
She was texting me when she was in labour.
They were so understaffed. I felt sorry for the midwives and the nurses. I genuinely did, because the staffing situation was bleak, really, really bleak. Yeah. But it was I didn't have my partner with me at all. I ended up having an emergency section, and he was just about allowed in for that. But that was more or less because I stood at the elevator and I was like, I am not taking another step until my partner is beside me. But there was another girl beside me who hadn't the strength to stand up for herself. Mind you, I done it for her, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But there was people like who didn't have like an old wagon like me in the bed beside them say, hold on a fucking minute now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you just can't do that. Like,
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. Jesus, Laura, I forgot about that. You weren't allowed to bring your partners in.
No.
I was 3 days in labour by myself.
Do you know, I heard of a case where a man had to sit in the car while his wife in England, he had to sit in the car while his wife was being told that she had lost her baby.
Oh, Jesus.
I've heard countless
And he
stories
could
of that.
not even go in. And
That's
the
terrible.
immorality of that just beggars belief, because in the early stages you had nurses and doctors and carers who were going in, they weren't vaccinated, because the vaccine wasn't out, they weren't being tested, they were going in and out in the uniforms that they had on, going home to their families, coming into work the next day, and yet somebody like Pat was going in to see his mother, and they were trying to put a shield between the two of them, and he was caring for his mother 24/7 along with his father, and he wasn't allowed in to them. But yet the minute she died, the woman died,
Come in, lads.
access everywhere.
Stop.
You have no idea.
I absolutely went. I won't say it on the program because my family look at this.
That's awful.
But anyway, Mum, you're looking down at us now. The panel is a program on LiRmedia.tv. Tell all your friends about us. And we have an email, info@LiRmedia.tv. Don't forget that. And subscribe to our channel. Before we finish, lads, we have Laura. What's that one? Rehashing old songs. Is there any originality or creativity anymore in the music business apart from that screamer Adele?
I love Adele. I love Adele.
I actually sent you this email during the week, Pat, about this topic because so in my business we've got the radio on, you know, not that over hair dryers you can't very well hear half it, but we have it on anyway for a bit of background, you know, hoping we might hear Alison at some stage during the day. But
or LiR Media.
On LiR Media,
Yes.
I just find every song that's getting released at the minute, I'm like, hold on a minute. I know that song from 20 years ago, or hold on a minute, those are the words of another song. Like the Dua Lipa song at the minute has all the Elton John going on.
Who'd you say, sorry?
Dua Lipa.
Dua Lipa. She's an artist.
Okay.
And that has all the Elton John song, Sacrifice and stuff going through it. And I'm just like, can anybody actually sit down, write an original song now and release it without having to steal a few bars from this song or steal some words from that song?
Well, Ed Sheeran
an existing song and tumble it up and make it
Laura, what about the original Eurovision song? Did you hear that yet?
No, I actually haven't.
That's not bad.
Controversy. Well, the controversy over the Eurovision song this year is that it was actually played on YouTube. Or not on YouTube, on Twitter or some one of those platforms, TikTok, a year or two or more ago. And a Eurovision song is supposed to only be heard when it's actually sent in, and it's supposed to be sent in specifically for the Eurovision.
Yeah.
And it's not supposed to be heard before it's actually on whichever.
Commercially, it wasn't released commercially. I think
it wasn't released commercially.
It didn't break the rule, really.
But the rule doesn't mean commercially. It means that it's played. It got say an airing. People were used to it or had heard it a little bit before. So there was a little bit of controversy about that. But Ed Sheeran is a singer-songwriter, and I mean a beautiful songwriter. And you know, he's to be commended. He's one of the few really out there.
He's playing 3 concerts down in Cork. He's playing 3 concerts down in Cork. Is it 3 in some time?
Pat's accent
I'm
gets
not a
more
massive fan now, Mary.
Cork.
I'm not a huge fan of Ed Sheeran. I mean, he's good, of course. I appreciate it.
I love him.
I'm in a radio station where it's, you know, 15 to 34 year olds, FM 104. So I'm hearing songs and I'm like, oh, and they grow on you and all that. Yeah. Then Q102 is older, you know.
Yeah.
And One artist that has there's songs that Jesus, I have to listen to this song again. Do you know, it drives me
Yeah,
mad.
I know.
But Sam Fender is going to be big.
He's going to be massive.
Yeah, he's.
But Alison, sorry for
he's
calling,
good.
as you're involved in a radio station too, do they play many Irish artists during the day?
They kind of have an Irish slot. And it could be Irish music or top Irish of the week and that kind of thing. But really, it's kind of Dermot Kennedy, Tom Grennan, Sam Fender's come in there now, Dua Lipa, all of them. Some of them I haven't got a clue who they are. But it's the Dermot Kennedy over and over and over. Ed Sheeran, you know, so it's kind of all the poppy stuff.
I interviewed Tommy Fleming, and I've interviewed him a few times on radio before I interviewed him on camera. And Tommy was really down. He was lovely. I mean, it was a great interview. I really enjoyed it, talking to him. But he was talking about the fact that he could not get his music on RTE.
Yeah.
He said yes, they'll play the likes of Westlife or Boyzone or U2 or something like that.
Or Ronan Keating.
Yeah, but any Irish artist who happens to live outside of Ireland.
Yeah.
Well, he said, I have been beating down the doors to try and get my music on. And there's a man who's employing staff in this country, paying tax in this country, bringing audiences joy in this country, and he can't get his music played. And I was talking to a woman, she was on Facebook, and she was an Irish singer, and she was complaining about the lack of Irish voices.
Yeah, it's true. No, Mary, it's true.
Female voices.
Yeah, it's all, I'll tell you, it's Tom Grennan, Dermot Kennedy, Dua Lipa.
Is it Brian Kennedy?
No,
Tom Kennedy.
Dermot Kennedy.
Dermot
Kennedy. He's actually, my partner always says, Mary Kennedy's nephew. But he is very talented. He is very talented, but he's married. But my partner always just looks at me and goes, he's Mary Kennedy's nephew. That's all I know about him. He's poppy. There's all poppy. But they're all singer-songwriters. And it's the same thing over and over and over. And I do find that. And unfortunately, they go for a particular market, particular thing. And they're kind of obliged by the BAI to play Irish music, but it's a percentage of time during the week.
It's a percentage. I know that from community radio,
and there's a huge audience for it.
Before we finish this topic, I have to acknowledge one person down through the years, I'm showing my age, who went out of it. Two people, one no longer with us, Larry Gogan, and the other was Dave Fanning.
Yeah.
The late night program, he was doing all Irish, new artists, emerging artists, and all that. It was fantastic.
It was.
It was a great platform for new artists in this country.
Before we finish, we'll go around the panel once more, lads, and it's been great having. Before we finish, we just want our thoughts on ageism in the media, ageism in the media generally, whether it's radio, TV, or whatever. For instance, if you're a man, you can be on. I know there's my friend Alan Jones, and he's not my friend, but look at him. Alan Jones is 83 years young. He's Sky News Australia, a very fresh, effervescent type character. I love watching him and listening to him. I don't agree with all his views, but he's 83. I never saw an 83-year-old woman on television.
No.
I wouldn't see an 83-year-old woman on television. Why, Alice? Why do you think that is?
It's always kind of been that way, Pat. You know, the women are getting older. It's like everything, isn't it? Men always seem to, they're able to be older dads. They're able to be older in the workplace. They're able to be the older bosses, and the women are sort of like.
But that doesn't make it right.
No, it doesn't make it right. No, but I've certainly seen it in the media. All of my bosses, and I was only saying this recently, all of my bosses were men. All of them. I had no female bosses that I remember.
Yeah.
And I can't say, that I have.
But women themselves.
Now in work, I have.
But Alison, women themselves sometimes can be their own worst enemy. Mary, you and I both know this. I know this is my third or fourth station being involved at community level. it's very, very difficult to get women to commit
Yeah, that's true.
to something like that, like
To
radio.
to radio. We can't get, we find it very difficult getting
We're conscious of it.
excited about doing radio. And if you know, for a long time it was just say me on the station, and you want to have another woman there. But you know, it's not even just, I suppose, women and ageism. I think it's just ageism. It's one of the last isms that seems to be almost ignored. You talk about racism and sexism and all the isms that there are in the world, but nobody really goes on about the fact that at 65 years of age, someone like Pat Barry is told, we don't have jobs, basically. This is what you're told, not in so many words, for young people coming up. So you who have been doing your job in the Department of Transport for many, many years, and you're doing a great job, you can go now because you've reached the age of 65.
Yeah.
And we'll take in a young fellow who'll decide maybe after 5 weeks, I hate this, I'm moving to Australia. And instead of Pat being able to say, no, thank you, I'm staying in this job until I actually decide I want to leave. And I just think that the whole of society is just overly obsessed with somebody reaching a certain age. And I get so annoyed when over a lot of things, but when you ring up a company and they ask you for your date of birth, and you say, like, how is that going to identify me more than my mother's maiden name or my pet dog name or the breed of dog that I have? Pick something else besides somebody's age. It's an incredibly personal thing to give over the phone. And then you go, you know, you hear on the and it's down to journalists as well, Alison. When you hear on the media, 95-year-old pensioner attacked, or a 19-year-old girl attacked. What does it matter what age somebody is? Can they not just say a man from wherever? It just seems to be this obsession with age, and women seem to be not doing enough, I don't think. When you look at GB News, it's refreshing to actually see the amount of older women and men, the likes of Anne Diamond, after being brought back out of retirement to do the breakfast show. And she looks fantastic doing the breakfast show. And she has a wealth of knowledge and years of experience in the media. She's not just somebody that's on there that looks pretty and has a short a skirt and lovely long legs or whatever. She is somebody who has spent years
give us a look at your legs
in her craft. No, but I mean, there's people who have, you know, you have Gloria Honeyford. You talk about people in their 80s. Gloria must be pushing 80 now.
But Mary as well, you feel safe listening to a person like that delivering the news. When I see young, I mean, I've no problem with anybody reading the news, but when I hear really young kids reading the news, I feel a little bit wobbly listening to them. But when you've got somebody, a steady Eddie, who's there years.
Absolutely. Anne Diamond was magnificent. I mean, she came back to do the breakfast show. And you have here in Ireland, I mean, there was no reason in the world that the likes of Thelma Mansfield or that Anne Doyle, or I mean, Anne Doyle's voice.
Dawn O'Rourke. You shouldn't have went.
O'Rourke.
Yeah.
You know,
that's right. Yeah.
What is this obsession with youth as opposed to knowledge or experience?
I will give you a version of what I think it could be, and and don't take what I say as gospel, but
we won't tell anyone.
It's a lot to do with looking pretty. Now, obviously, you have to hold it together, and you have to know your stuff, and they're not just going to throw anyone on the airwaves, right?
No.
But good-looking women draw the audience, and that I was told that about 20 years ago by one particular boss. Good look women, and same thing when I made the documentary about Rachel Keogh for Sky News, the girl who nearly lost her arms from heroin use, doing brilliant now. I remember being in Sky, and this person was working in Sky, and I'm not saying it's a Sky issue, it was the person who could have been a contractor for all I know, but I remember he came in to watch a bit of it prior to the big launch date because it did really well. And he said, "Oh God, we're so lucky she's good looking. Because if it had been the girl beside her, we would have said, piss off." There you go.
Wow.
Jesus.
We
Laura,
would have said, and I remember, I still remember.
But you know, Laura, when you look at the likes of Anne Diamond and you look again at Gloria Honeyford, who even for a 17, whatever she is,
she's 81 or 2.
whatever she is, she looks absolutely amazing.
Amazing.
She was on The Masked Singer the other night, looked absolutely amazing, and still.
But you trust her. You trust
absolutely.
her.
You listen to Anne Doyle's voice again from, you know, I mean, when you hear Anne Doyle's voice, you don't even have to see her. You know straight away who it is.
Oh, Bibi Baskin. Do you remember Bibi Baskin?
Bibi Baskin. Bibi Baskin. I interviewed Bibi on my show, and she was absolutely fabulous. And she said that she misses the media so much, but she said you get pushed out because you're getting older. My God, that voice is still exactly the same.
It's still with her all these years. And you can find that program, lads, on our YouTube channel. It's down and on. So last year we did it with her, you know. Yeah, she was the voice. Just close your eyes for people of a certain vintage, Laura. With apologies to people who are not of a certain
I've actually got somebody for your show, Mary. I must let you know about them, and I can share. Do you remember the story of Mary Fleming with MS who challenged the right to die?
Yes.
Remember this
campaign? God, yes.
Well, her partner Tom Curran is involved in a play that's going to start touring the country in the next few weeks, and I spent about an hour and a half with him and Pat. Oh God, from Fair City, what's his name? Played Barry, can't think of his surname. The actress.
Yes, I'm on LinkedIn, I think, with him.
Fabulous, his name escapes me. But anyway, I sat down with them for an hour and a half the other day and did a podcast with them about this play coming up. And as Tom said, it's not about the campaigning and the right to die. It's the love story of Tom and Mary.
And his wife.
She was born a mother and baby home. I didn't know that. So I'll send you the link, but Mary, follow it up for an interview. They are
absolutely
beautiful to talk to.
And Laura is coming on with me to tell me her story. Actually, this week I have on the 16th, I'm quite nervous about it because I'm interviewing a man called, he's Dr. Bernd Volkschläger. And Dr. Bernd Volkschläger is the son of a Nazi tank commandant who was very, very close with Himmler. And when he found out about his father's actions in his teens, he started researching Judaism, became a Jew, moved to Israel, joined the IDF, married a Jewish woman, and he's living in Florida now.
Wow, that's a story.
That is,
and I'm interviewing him. He's very hard to get. He talks all over the world, but and during the week I interviewed Dame Helen Hyde. She's a Dame commander of the British Empire. But
always send me your links. Send them to me, and if I can get a page lead out of them, I'll do it.
Fantastic. That would be fantastic because he's a.
And I'll be talking to myself, Alison. That's why I love doing that. Anyway.
I'm looking forward to interviewing Laura. And
Laura's a brilliant interviewee. Brilliant.
Yeah. And
I'm not just saying that.
And all of those, and we've come to the end of another edition of the panel, lads, and it's just fantastic. I'm surrounded with beautiful women. I'm not ageist, because if I was, I wouldn't be here, if you follow my drift. And you can catch up all our programs on our YouTube channel. And the link are on the program, and it's and our email is info@LiRmedia.tv for all your comments, and press the red button to subscribe to our channel. So from Alison O'Reilly, Laura, lads, and Mary.
Laura Woodrow,
chocolates, stick to the oysters.
Witherow Woodrow. Who's Woodrow Wilson? Yeah, Laura.
Until we meet again, lads. Take care and have a happy Valentine's and a happy weekend.
Happy Valentine's.
Thanks, Guy. Happy Valentine's.
Happy
Valentine's. Bye-bye. This is LiR Media. To whom it concerns, welcome to the panel.